I've always been an introvert, and I didn't realize how much I needed that personal interaction with people. And so then the pandemic has kind of forced us to use technology like this to be able to connect with people. LinkedIn has really upped its game over the last couple of years, and so it's a lot easier to find good candidates on kind of a single platform, which does make things a little bit simpler. Could you interview someone from another city? Well, you had to find out. Are you willing to commute? Are you willing to travel for the interview? And are you willing to relocate if we were to hire you? Those days are gone. I focus less on how somebody's dressed, although I'll be honest. The things that impress me the most are someone that shows up and they smile in an interview. As much as an interview can be stress-inducing, I think it's important for people to be able to kind of show their best selves. We're now presenting ourselves to this tiny little camera, but there's a person on the other end. So I'm not having a conversation with the camera, I'm having a conversation with McDonnell. So I think it's important for us to realize that this is an extension of life.
Hi all, good morning. So today I have Matt with us, who has over 2 decades of experience. He is a technology leader skilled in leading complex projects, improving processes, and building exceptional teams. His expertise includes leveraging innovation and empowering employees to build sustainable technical foundations and turn around underperforming processes, because who wants to work with a company which is inefficient? Let's welcome Matt on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us about what he has learned along the way and how we can implement his learnings in our day-to-day life. Hi Matt, how are you doing today?
Hi Manal, how are you?
Good, thank you. So Matt, can you tell us a little about your journey?
My journey, I've been all over the place. As you've indicated, I've got over 2 decades of experience in software engineering, and I've worked at small companies, large companies. I've worked for lots of different types of organizations, startups and whatnot. Worked across multiple different industries, retail, finance. It's been quite an adventure. And it's funny, the pandemic has really enabled us to learn more about ourselves and learn more about individuals. And, it's been this, I've always been an introvert, and I didn't realize how much I needed that personal interaction with people. And so then the pandemic has kind of forced us to use technology like this to be able to connect with people. And it's had a dramatic impact. And I think it's improved the way we can recruit. It's improved the way I've been able to hire people.
Okay, I would love to dive more into that, the way you've been able to hire. So can you maybe explain how it was like pre-pandemic and how it's like post-pandemic when it came to hiring for you?
Well, pre-pandemic, honestly, the scheduling was a challenge. I think that the initial kind of, sorting through resumes and kind of the initial application process, that hasn't really changed all that much. Although I think, LinkedIn has really upped its game over the last couple of years, and so it's a lot easier to find good candidates on kind of a single platform, which does make things a little bit simpler. But the initial screening, I think that also necessarily hasn't changed a lot, because I think that there's an advantage to doing a non-visual, phone screen, because I think it kind of reduces or it eliminates some of those subconscious biases that we have. So that way, when you meet with someone, you don't see their hairstyle, you don't see, whether it be the color of their skin or whatnot. So, but when it comes to scheduling the actual interviews, when it was physical, you were limited in terms of, could you interview someone from another city? Well, you had to find out, are you willing to commute? Are you willing to travel for the interview? And are you willing to relocate if we were to hire you? Those days are gone. And then the actual scheduling of the interview, it's fairly easy to schedule an interview in a single, series of interviews in a single day. And if it can't all be done in a single day, you don't have to worry about someone having to move back and forth. It's all from the comfort of their living room or their bedroom or their office or a cafe. So I think it has provided an opportunity for it's provided a leveling opportunity where now candidates can be themselves, and they don't have to worry about kind of turning over backwards to travel to an office.
That's very true. I think one thing that I would like to understand more is at first, before the pre-pandemic and everything, you could tell a lot about body language. You could tell a lot about a person by the way he dresses and everything. But those factors are limited now. So how do you think you could evaluate candidates much more accurately? Because I think body language, the way candidates interact, go hand in hand. So would love to understand your take on that.
Well, body language has changed, and I do evaluate someone in terms of how they show up to a video call. If someone shows up and they're in a poorly lit room, if someone doesn't have the connectivity and they're not aware of how they're being received, then that's kind of a knock. So I focus less on how somebody's dressed, although I'll be honest. I mean, the things that impress me the most are someone that shows up and they smile in an interview. As much as an interview can be stress inducing, I think it's important for people to be able to kind of show their best selves. So yeah, it's changed, but there are still cues, and I think that we're all learning too. One of the things that I do personally is here I am at a standing desk, and that's how I'm able to emote. And as much as I'm Irish, my wife is Italian, so I speak a lot with my hands. So that's it's things are going to evolve, and we're human. That's I think there's a phrase um, adapt, migrate, or die. So I think that we're all adapting to this new normal, and so we still have that. We still have those cues that we can evaluate, but clearly it is a little bit different.
No, I think a lot of humans that adapted really well are the ones that came out the strongest, who took most out of the opportunity from the pandemic, grew, learned more about themselves. Just because I think when we were surrounded by so many people, there's more emphasis on them as opposed to us. So it was a learning period for a lot of people who sat home, reflected, realized, okay, they're not happy at their current job. So a lot of people ended up quitting their jobs just because that caused the great resignation period itself. So thank you for sharing that, Matt. My next question for you, Matt, would be: How is life working? How is life working out for you? What have you learned along the way that would be useful for job seekers out there from your experiences?
Oh, what have I learned? I've learned
That's a loaded
it
question.
is because I've learned a lot. I mean, yeah, as I indicated, I mean, as a lifelong introvert, that recognition of that dependency that I have on that human interaction. I think what I've learned is maybe to repeat what I just said in terms of the way we all present ourselves. We're now presenting ourselves to this tiny little camera, and but there's a person on the other end. So I'm not having a conversation with the camera. I'm having a conversation with McDonnell. So I think it's important for us to realize that this is an extension of life. And so the other thing that I've learned too is the importance of the written word, because now that we are distant, and we don't have that shared geography. It's important for us to realize that after this conversation, you and I will exchange we'll exchange an email, and I think that you need to be able to tie everything together, recognizing that at the end of an interview, there's a handshake, and you end up having a conversation kind of outside the context of the interview. You have to do that same thing. So now that we're remote, once our call is done, once this podcast is done, we'll have a follow-up conversation. I think that's the most important thing that I've learned, is the importance of continuity and using that written word to tie everything together, because that's the new normal.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think when it was in person and everything, it was easier to do the follow up. But when you're actually doing it remotely, you can see that people are going the extra mile because it takes a while to write an email. It takes a while to actually reach out. So I think it definitely shows a person if they're interested in working with you, if they're interested in a follow up conversation. So thank you for sharing that. But other than that, Matt, thank you so much. Our time is up. We like to keep things short. It was an absolute pleasure learning about your journey, how you decided to hire pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and how things have worked out for you. You definitely are a leader, and anyone would be lucky to work under you. Thank you
It's
so
a
much.
pleasure. Thank you so much for those kind words.